For a spacey futuristic MMO, Warframe has some rather banal and common weapons, though some of them stand apart from others with a little bit of a gimmick, something that gives them a personality. This is the case with the Argonak, and today we're going to be diving deeper into it. Hey guys, hello and welcome back. As always, my name is Leyzar, and as per the usual, I'm going to be having a cheap build for you guys, something affordable that anybody can build, but of course we also have the classic endgame setup with a Riven. The mastery rank requirement of the Argonak is only 7, but as per the usual, I'm going to be keeping my new player friendly approach, simply because there's a lot of info here and I want anybody watching to understand how the weapon functions and how it should be built. So if you're a veteran of the game and already know most of this stuff, you can either have a little patience or skip ahead. And with that out of the way, let's jump into the Argonak. Let's begin by having a look at how the weapon behaves without any mods equipped. And for that, I'm simply going to be taking a couple of free shots. You'll see that as soon as I zoom in, my enemies get this little bit of a contour on it, and in my case it's in purple. That is because the Argonak has a very interesting feature. As soon as you zoom in into a target or onto a group of targets, they will get this thick outline on them. The color will depend on your weapon's energy color, and this is extremely useful when it comes to missions such as dense fog, for example, or perhaps during the nighttime on Cetus. Again, you can customize this. The Argonak is an assault rifle and it has two fire modes. First of all, semi, shot by shot action. And if you press your alternative fire, you can switch to automatic. And you also notice something else changed. The zoom level. Yes, in semi mode you got a bigger zoom level, which will make it easier to land precise shots, but it also means you are seeing less of the screen. As a personal matter, I found this to be just a little bit annoying, but there you go. So once again, auto with less zoom, but you still get that light up feature. And that's pretty much it. Let's jump into stats to see precisely what we're dealing with. The Argonak's mod capacity is going to be 60 out of 60. And if your Argonak only has 30 out of 30, then jump into actions and install the Auto King Catalyst. This one can be found from alerts, invasions, or if you're lucky, from the daily sortie. As an alternative measure, you can simply pay 20 plat to have one installed. Next, my weapon has been formatted a total of 4 times, but this was done only for the purpose of testing. For the weapon builds, I'm recommending you guys 2, maximum of 3 format should do it. It's also gonna depend if you have a Riven or not. The accuracy for the Argonak, both in semi and auto, is gonna be 28.6, which is pretty good for the most part when it comes to assault rifles. This is pretty much standard. Unfortunately, at least for me, that means that heavy caliber is a no-no. 15.5 isn't that bad for the primary bullet that leaves the rifle. Unfortunately, all the resulting multi-shot kinda goes haywire. If you wanna use heavy caliber, keep in mind that long-range shots are kinda out of the question, especially when it comes to the resulting multi-shot bullets. Critical chance for semi is 27% and only 9% in auto, with a multiplier of 2.3 for semi and only 1.5 for auto. You will see across the board that semi mode has higher crit chance and crit multi, but the auto mode has a higher status chance, 27% versus 19%. Fire rate 4.33 in semi, and in auto we got 6.0. Same magazine capacity of 43 for both fire modes and a reload speed of 2.4 seconds. A tad lengthy. Riven disposition 3 out of 5, which means that the Rivens are right smack in the middle, so they're definitely worth getting, especially considering that the Argonak Rivens are not very expensive. Now, this does not mean that Rivens are required. Definitely not. You will see that the Argonak can be a competitive weapon even without Rivens. The damage types: impact, puncture, and slash. The whole shebang, and fortunately for us, the highest amount is going to be slash. You will see that the damage layout does not change from auto to semi. Now, I'm gonna say something right now. For all my testing with the weapon, semi mode was the mode to use. Yes, auto is a bit more comfortable to use. It's a lot easier than to just click your button, but semi will always almost give you better results. Auto would be good for a armor stripper mode. Unfortunately, the fire rate ain't that great, and the magazine capacity ain't that great either for a automatic armor stripper or something like that. Again, my recommendation for you guys is to focus on semi. Let's start slapping on some mods, starting with mandatory mod Serration, 165% extra damage. Heavy caliber is up to you guys. I advised against it because once again, the weapon becomes a little bit too inaccurate. Split chamber 90% multi-shot and vigilante armaments as well with 60% multi-shot, totaling 150% multi-shot. Next we're gonna go to critical chance and critical damage so we can take advantage of the base crit chance and crit multi of the semi mode. Point strike 150% critical chance as well as vital sense with 120% critical damage. Now if you guys have Argon scope, that's a huge boost for this weapon. I don't know if you have it or not currently on the trade chat, going for about 150-200 platinum. That means that while the buff from Argon scope is up, you're going to 103 point something percent critical chance, so you got guaranteed crit with each and every single bullet. From this point onwards, you gotta really decide what you're gonna do with the weapon. You can build it for slash, through the weapon's innate slash value, and maybe throw in Hunter Munitions as well, and that will prove very efficient. Or you can build it the classic way, the standard elemental way. When adding elemental damage to the weapon, we gotta always keep in mind what are the targets we're facing. For example, up against infested, then I would recommend AoE weapons heavily modded into heat. If you're going up against Corpus faction, building gas or toxin to bypass their shields and deal damage to their health can be a very smart idea. Against Grenier, which are currently the toughest targets in Warframe, you gotta take into account their armor types. Alloy, which is weak to radiation, and Ferrite, which is weak to corrosive damage. Against Grenier, more often than not, your safest bet will be to build corrosive. Take into account your exact mission and what kind of enemies you're gonna be fighting, but again, with corrosive against Grenier, you can't really go wrong. Electricity and toxin, we're gonna need Stormbringer or high voltage. Which is better and in what circumstance? There's a general rule in Warframe that states something like this. If you're going 100 under, go for the 90 mods, 100 over, go for the 60 mods. Now keep in mind that this general rule should be kept in mind, but it's not correct 100% of the time. And since we're going 100 plus, we're gonna go with high voltage, 60% electricity, and 60% status chance. This one can be farmed from the game. The mission is called Naelgar on the planet Eris. You gotta find all the free secret caches, then upon extraction you got a 5% chance of getting high voltage or shell shock. Shell shock is the exact same thing, but only for shotguns. You're gonna need both of them in order to max out your primary weapons. I'll be honest here, I have 50 plus runs on Naelgar. I have never seen high voltage or shell shock drop. I got them both from the trade chat, so you might want to consider that. And if you don't have high voltage, don't want to farm it, don't want to buy it, simply use Stormbringer. Got my electricity, let's go to toxin. This one is no excuse for not having it. It's easy to obtain from Corrupted War in the Void. If not from the trade chat, 10 to 15 plat, 60% toxin and 60% status chance. The final mod slot on a weapon is what I like to call an option slot. Plug into this one whatever you feel comfortable with. For example, a lot of players enjoy punch through, and for good reason as well. Metal auger with 2.1 meters worth of punch through. That means that your bullet will be going through the initial target and hit whatever is left on your trajectory. So it's a form of AoE and it can be extremely efficient depending on circumstance. But perhaps you want to tend to the weapon's weak points, and the reload from my point of view is one weak point on the Argonak 43 magazine size with a reload of 2.4. You can go for fast hands or prime fast hands if you have that one. But keep in mind that we are building corrosive on the weapon for two reasons. One, the status app, which will reduce enemies' armor, and second, the damage type itself has a 75% bonus versus ferrite armor. Unfortunately, if I keep in mind what are the status proc rules in Warframe, impact, puncture, and slash, the physical types have a 4 times greater chance of proccing over elemental types such as corrosive. So if I really want to get somewhat consistent corrosive procs on my target, I'm gonna have to add more. If I multiply slash by 4 and impact, they're a lot higher, sadly, than my corrosive. But I can fix that with infected clip or Stormbringer. Again, simply use whatever you have handy. 792 corrosive. Now that's a whole lot better, and this is the initial build I'm gonna be recommending to you guys. So let's test it and see if it's got any punch on it or not. And of course we're gonna be testing both semi and auto modes. We're gonna do semi on the right and of course auto on the left. This is semi. Not very impressive, is it? That is because the fire rate, even with something like perfect click, let's say you can mash your button perfectly or want to use a macro on PC or something like that, you will see that the weapon is not very efficient. Let's switch to auto and see if we get better results. Of course, the weapon is a lot more manageable, easier to use like this instead of mashing something or using some kind of a macro, and you will see that it takes even more bullets to finish off one of these high level targets. Unfortunately for the Argonaut, a corrosive build such as this, from my point of view, doesn't yield the greatest of results, and I'm the kind of player that prefers 8 times out of 10 a corrosive setup, but for the Argonak, not really. Let's switch to something a bit more bleedy based on slash, and we can do that with another build entirely. And of course I kept my mandatory mods. We got Serration, Vital Sense, Split Chamber, Point Strike, and while I'm not calling Vigilante Armaments mandatory, it will work very well in this specific build. The slashes will be coming from 2 sources. One, Hunter Munitions, 30% chance to apply slash status to an enemy on critical hits, and the second source is the weapon's innate slash value. I still got a pretty good status chance even in semi mode. In auto, even higher at 54.5%. So again, I'm gonna be getting a lot of slashes through Hunter Munitions and a couple of slashes through the weapon's innate slash value. When building a weapon for slash and bleeds, it's a very smart idea to build viral damage. Viral on a status proc will be reducing the maximum health of a target to 50% for the duration of the viral effect. So in a way, for that specific duration, your slashes will be dealing double damage. So what you want from viral is to kill your target while viral is kind of still on it. You can go for the 90 mods or you can go for the 60-60 mods. In this case in particular, what I'm gonna do is go for the 60-60 mods. I want a higher status chance so I can get a few more slashes through the weapon's innate slash value. Now don't misunderstand, it's not gonna be a ton of more slashes, but there will be additional slashes if I increase my status chance. High voltage, no. Malignant for 60% toxin and 60% status chance. As for our cold mod, is going to be rhyme rounds. Of course, if you guys have prime cryo rounds with infected clip, definitely use that combo. But once again, you do get a higher status chance. Slash is #1 on the proc pecking priority with these numbers right here. So you will be getting some additional slashes. You can test that one very easily. Once again, corrupted heavy gunner level 120, and we're gonna go semi on the right column and auto on the left. Now let's see if we can make something out of this weapon, and you will see that a build such as this is a lot more impactful, a lot more efficient than a corrosive setup. 1070 per bleed, and again I do have a pretty good enough crit chance, and we're gonna be able to increase that as well just a bit later on. It takes a lot less bullets to finish off one of these high level targets, and once again, for a build such as this, and in general for the Argonak, what you want to do is kind of use semi mode. Another option you have, if you don't want to click your button to death, then you can simply rebind your fire to your scroll wheel. I found that approach to gameplay a bit too clunky for my taste, but once again, it is an option. Now let's switch to auto. In auto, you will see that the values of the slashes are a lot weaker. What is that? 697 opposed to 1070. That is because the critical multiplier for auto mode is a lot lower than it is for semi, and of course the critical chance as well. Not really worth it, and once again, use the Argonak for the best results in semi mode. Now that's not the only way to approach a slash build. The next one is a bit more expensive because it does require you to have Argon Scope. We're gonna draw Vital all together and we're gonna go for Argon Scope just to make sure we have guaranteed crit on our target. Once again, with the buff up, we're going to 103 point something %, and we're also gonna be using bladed rounds to pump up the value of our critical damage. Therefore, bigger slashes and more slashes with Argon Scope. This one is gonna be a little bit more potent, but it's nothing really to write home about in terms of difference to the normal one. So if you don't have Argon Scope Thread Knot, you can simply use the Vital setup. And once again, semi on the right, auto on the left. Take a look at that. Now that is pretty good. A lot more slashes on the target, and now I got my buff from bladed rounds. So I'm gonna get bigger value slashes. 1653, and that is definitely significant. This is the slash build that will yield the best results, but once again, if you do not have Argon Scope, don't go out of your way to get it. You can simply use a Vital setup. As for auto, yes, this one works too, but once again is not as efficient. I don't have a high enough critical multiplier, and my critical chance is no longer guaranteed. It's not bad, it will work, yeah, sure it will work, but it's not as good as semi, so keep that one in mind. Next, we're gonna move to a Riven setup. Of course, I got a Riven for this one, and I paid 150 plat. Now, the Riven I found within a reasonable price, yes, oops, sorry about that, is multi-shot toxin and critical damage. The toxin will work fine because I can make corrosive and I can also make a vital setup. Multi-shot is always good, critical damage will increase the value of my slashes, and you will notice this is a bit of a hybrid build. I still want my guaranteed crit so I can get as much slash as I can through Hunter Munitions, so I'm keeping Argon Scope, and I'm going to be using Rhyme rounds together with the Riven to make vital damage. And let's test it out and see if we get a decent enough difference. Was the 150 plat worth it? Totally. Again, it's dispo free, so the Rivens are not bad at all. Take a look at that. Now that is definitely pretty impressive. And while the Argonak is only an MR7 weapon, it can definitely get the job done. Yes, it cannot stand to the might of something like the T-Baron Prime. No, there is no comparison there, but the T-Baron Prime is basically having your cake and eating it too. Thank you very much, T, but I think we had enough of that nonsense. The Argonak, however, if you're around MR7, is definitely worth the build, and I highly recommend you guys giving it a go. As you can see, it can definitely be quite potent. And you know what? Argonak Rivens are not very expensive because there's simply not a lot of players using this. We got so many assault rifles in this game, it's hard to choose just one. Unrolled Argonak Rivens go for about 10 to 20 plat. Next, we're gonna pump up everything with Warframe Buffs using my favorite weapon specialist, Lady Mirage Prime. Now let's see what kind of buffs she's got. Pistol Lamp, yeah, that will not help us one bit. We're gonna be using Rifle Lamp. Now these amp auras aren't 100% worth it because the values they offer aren't really all that great. Even if you do use Coaction Drift to get just a little bit more out of Rifle Lamp, from my point of view, they're not 100% worth it. 27% extra damage to rifles. This is an aura, so everybody in your party will be receiving this benefit. It is stackable ×4. When it comes to arcanes, you do have two very good options. First of all, Arcane Rage on headshot, 10% chance for 120% damage to rifles for 16 seconds. You see what I mean when it comes to values? This one will give me 120%, and this one gives me what, 27%? Not really all that great. When it comes to your second arcane, you do have a bit of an option, but my recommendation is gonna be with acceleration, simply because the weapon in general, the Argonak, feels kinda sluggish. On critical hit, 20% chance for 60% fire rate rifles for 6 seconds. This is my recommendation to you guys, and acceleration for the most part is pretty cheap. The R3 is about 40 plat, something along those lines. And of course, you can always head on over to Cetus and try farming it for yourself. It drops from the second Eidolon. Let's even unpause the AI for the more scrupulous of viewer. There you go. I'm gonna activate Mirage's third ability for a massive damage increase as well as her clones, and we're gonna go to town. Take a look at this. Of course, this is a slash build, so I can stop firing anytime and simply let the slashes deal the damage. But I'm not gonna do that because I have plenty of power and there's no need to stop shooting until your target is dead. However, if this was an actual gameplay scenario, you just put a couple of bullets, run away and hide, so they don't kill you, and let the slashes deal the damage. As for the Argonak and my conclusions to it, it gets the job done. Sure, it's not one of the most powerful assault rifles in the game, but do you really need the most powerful of anything when it comes to Warframe? As always, my name has been Leyzar. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. If you have any feedback for me or would like to request a specific weapon review, then by all means, leave it in the comment section down below. Now, I can't realistically promise you that it will be done by next time or even within a week, because these reviews do take quite a bit of time. But I will be reading through each and every comment. You can find me on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, all the usual places. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye.